Hello everyone and welcome to episode 9 of my Orc Shaman level 1 through 60 playthrough in the Season of Discovery, where it is phase 2 of the Season of Discovery and we have been exploring all of the new things that we can do in this phase. And in this episode I am going to continue my leveling journey, where basically like my main goal for this episode is to get to like level 31 or around that level. We'll see how I feel like towards like the end of this episode and like how far we get as I basically go all around the world and complete a lot of quests in areas that we have been exploring, where I think I'm going to spend probably no time really in the Barrens because I've done everything there, but we have a bunch of stuff to do in the Stone Talon Mountains, in Ashen Vale, and then of course we have been exploring the Thousand Needles. So I'm going to continue exploring all that stuff, and we can talk about some fun things with lore and story and stuff that I want to talk about in this episode. But before we start our adventures, I want to go ahead and take a quick sneak peek at one of the festivals in World of Warcraft, where of course last episode we talked a little bit about the Lunar Festival and we did a bunch of stuff going to like Moonglade and looking at fireworks and stuff like that. But there is like a 4-day festival that happens during the Lunar Festival that is the Love is in the Air Festival, basically like Valentine's Day in World of Warcraft. And it's a pretty small festival, so we're not going to spend a lot of time looking at it. And it's a festival that I think has changed a lot over the course of World of Warcraft, where it is so very specific in like the vanilla version of the game with like what's available, and then I think it's in the Wrath Lich King version where it gets overhauled like a lot. And then I'm not entirely sure how it is in retail, but I think it's kind of just like an iteration of what it was like in Wrath of the Lich King with like some changes here and there and some new stuff, where basically in the Wrath Lich King version things get streamlined a little bit. There is like some different quests added into the game, and there are some like special rewards you can get with like a specific currency, and there's a bunch of achievements, and there's even like a special dungeon you can do, like just a one boss dungeon in Shadowfang Keep, where it gets like overhauled just for like the festival or whatever. And here in Classic, we can look at a few different things where there are some quests we can do, but I'm not super interested in doing any of those quests. But basically, we can come to like any innkeeper in the world and we can ask him like a bunch of questions related to like cologne and perfume and stuff like that. But basically, when we browse goods here, we can go ahead and buy cologne bottles and perfume bottles and the love tokens, where we can put cologne or perfume on us, and then we can chat with different NPCs around the world and we can give them love tokens. And depending on like the NPC's like gender or whatever, we have to use cologne or perfume to basically have them talk to us, and then we can give them love tokens and we get stuff in return. Where I am currently on this character, and I am now on this character, which is like the other character that I've been playing in the Season of Discovery alongside my main Let's Play character, my Fire Mage here. But I have a bunch of stuff right here where we have perfume and cologne and we have love tokens, where basically we can come up to an Orgrimmar grunt like this one over here because we have cologne, and then we can go ahead and be like, I like to give you this token of my love, and then we get a special pledge of adoration here for Orgrimmar. And if we open it, we got actually a lot of stuff in that one, where we got a handful of rose petals, where like our friend here, we can go ahead and throw rose petals on them, and then we can see that there's like a trail of rose petals following them. And then what else did we get there? We also got these friendship bracelets, which we can give to heartbroken players to cheer them up. And then we also got a grunts card right here, where we have this, where we can combine 5 grunts cards into a package of cards, which I think I have this right here, where we can combine a box of fresh pies, an Orgrimmar pledge collection, and a package of cards into an Orgrimmar gift collection, where we've gotten some freshly baked pies here, and we got some pledge of loyalties there, and then we got some silver shafted arrows, which we can shoot at a player, and Q pedal feet will find them. And we just have like a bunch of different things, where in the classic version of the game, basically we can buy a ton of love tokens from NPCs, and then we can basically, or innkeepers, and then we can basically go around to a bunch of NPCs and collect a bunch of different things. And once we collect all the things, we can turn it into basically an Orgrimmar gift collection. And we can do that in Orgrimmar, and then we can do it in Thunderbluff and in Undercity. And in each respective city, we can go ahead and come to the leader of that city. So here we are in Orgrimmar, we have Thrall over here, and then we have Q pedal feet right here that we can chat with, and we can basically give a horde gift collection, I think, or I guess we have to get all 3 maybe, and then we can just go ahead and give one of these to Kui here, who is at the leader, for the leader that we say we like the most. And this is a really cool part of Classic because there is like standings here, where on this server in the Season of Discovery, we can see all of the different leaders here, where this is an Alliance side of the server. So naturally there's going to be a lot more of Alliance votes, but we can see in the Horde, Thrall 103, Karen 57, Sylvanas 86. So like Karen's like the least popular. And then over on the Alliance side of things on this server, Bolvar is the least popular at 223, Magni at 225, and Tyrande at 331. Surprisingly enough, I thought it'd be Bolvar would be number 1, because I have a feeling Thrall might be like the most popular just because like Orgrimmar and like stuff like that, but some people might be voting like actually based off like what they enjoy. But that's a really fun part of Classic with that like whole voting system and whatnot, and it's kind of just like not really anything super rewarding for the player. It's kind of just like something fun, and you can like go around and have some fun. We're starting in Wrath Lich King. You get like some currency where you can buy like a picnic basket and stuff like that, but still then nothing super important. But there are like some fun quests that leads to like that dungeon I was talking about for like a storyline related to like the goblins, basically kind of like, I'm not entirely sure what the storyline is, but it's probably related to like capitalism and like poisoning people and stuff like that, so you can interact with that storyline, where we have like some stories around here where we can bring like love notes from one NPC to like another NPC around the world, but nothing super important. We have this AFK player right here. Let's go ahead and use the arrow and we can shoot at the person, and they now have a companion that will follow them around pedal feet there. And I think if we read it, only works on players with no current critter pets, so it kind of just adds a companion pet that runs around with them for a little bit, so just kind of like a fun gimmick type of thing. But that is everything that I wanted to explore with the Love is in the Air Festival. So we've explored that. Last episode we explored the Lunar Festival, and I kind of just want to like take quick sneak peeks at like all the different festivals, where so far in like all my series I've looked at like Children's Week, and is that the only other one I really looked at? I'm kind of blinking. Oh, I looked at like Hallows End a little bit. So we've looked at like 4 different ones so far. So we'll continue taking a look at a few other ones. But now I'm going to go ahead and continue my adventures here in Kalimdor, and even probably going over to the Eastern Kingdoms, which I didn't say earlier, but I said last episode, where we'll go do some things in Hillsbrad, and I'll work towards getting to level 31. As we adventure through Kalimdor and the Hillsbrad foothills, I want to go ahead and do something a little fun, where I talk a lot about like the lore and story of World of Warcraft throughout all these Let's Play episodes, and I've been highlighting many different parts of the world of Azeroth, and most of the time I'm kind of just reading through like wiki pages as we do that as kind of like a more structured format, where like sometimes I'll just kind of like ramble about like lore topics that I know about, but I don't do that too much anymore because I kind of just enjoy reading, and it's probably a better story just reading it off the wiki than like what I remember from like all my adventures. But today I want to do something that's basically like that, but I kind of want to do a wiki deep dive, and by deep dive not that deep, but I want to start on a wiki page about a topic that I want to talk about, and then from that wiki page I want to pick something that is like stated in that wiki article, and like the blue link basically, and I want to click on that link and go to a new wiki page that is directly connected to that, and then I want to do that again and again and again, and maybe we'll do it like 5 times. But the wiki page that I want to start on is Varrock Sourfang, who is an incredibly important lore character in World of Warcraft, even in Classic WoW, where looking at his titles, he is High Overlord of the Horde, High Overlord of the Kor'kron Guard, Sourfang the Elder, Supreme Commander of the Might of Kalimdor, and Lord. So, High Overlord Varrock Sourfang was a renowned orc warrior of the Blackrock clan, and the younger brother of Broxigar, a famed veteran of the First, Second, and Third Wars. He served as War Chief Orgrim Doomhammer's second in command during the Second War, and as Supreme Commander of the Might of Kalimdor during the Second War of the Shifting Sands against the Karaji of Ahn'Qiraj. He later led the Kor'kron against the Scourge in Northrend and assisted Thrall during the Siege of Orgrimmar. Following the tragic battle on the Broken Shore and Sylvanas Windrunner's promotion to War Chief, Sourfang took up the position of leader of Orgrimmar and resided in Grommash Hold. Disgusted with Sylvanas' increasingly cruel and brutal reign, Saurfang turned against the war chief and asked King Anduin Wrynn for assistance in removing her from power. Both the armies of the Alliance and the Horde loyalists gathered by Saurfang in Zekin's campaign gathered at the gates of Orgrimmar, where Saurfang challenged Sylvanas to mock Geralt, which culminated in his death and in Sylvanas' departure, preventing massive bloodshed between the two factions. Where when we look at World of Warcraft as a whole, Varrock's story ends and is like the biggest thing in the Battle for Azeroth expansion, but he plays an important part in Legion, in Warlords of Draenor, in Mists of Pandaria, in the Cataclysm, and in the Wrath of the Lich King. But let's go ahead and just chat about his early life and his basically presence in the vanilla version of World of Warcraft. Varrock Saurfang was born on Draenor as a member of the Blackrock clan and the younger brother of Broxigar. Broxigar and Varrock also had an unnamed half-brother, sharing the same mother but different fathers. Shortly after Blackhand was named War Chief of the Horde, 5 years before the opening of the Dark Portal, he named Varrock, Eitric, and Orgrim Doomhammer as his lieutenants, and they helped oversee the Blackrock war machine as it prepared for the war with the Draenei. Varrock made the free decision to drink the blood of Manroth alongside Grommash Hellscream and led forces in the sacking of Shadrath, the Blood Curse, causing them to murder many innocent Draenei, children included. Around the time of the Dark Portal's opening, Varrock's mate Rimda apparently died and was burned in Nagrand. Having promised his mate that their son would not be exposed to the Warlocks or cross the Dark Portal, their son Dranosh was hidden away at Geradar in Nagrand. While Varrock charged into the world of Azeroth, commanding Blackhand's army like an unstoppable force towards Stormwind, never losing a battle until the Horde was routed at the end of the Second War. When Orgrim seized control of the Horde in the First War, he chose Varrock as his second-in-command after witnessing Saurfang's efficient and brutal tactics on the field. Shortly after Orgrim's ascension, Saurfang participated in the war's final battle, the Siege of Stormwind City, in which he personally hunted out humans in the streets while the city burned around him. When the Horde marched from the Hillsbrad foothills into the hinterlands during the Second War, Varrock commanded a rear guard of Blackrock orcs to waylay the Alliance. At some part during the war, he faced Cyrus Crestfall and almost killed him. At some point during the Third War, Varrock fought alongside the Troll Hikazi. He participated in the Battle of Mount Hyjal, witnessing Archimonde's fall to the Wisps. After the demonic bloodlust had been lifted from the orcs due to Grommash Hellscream's sacrifice, Varrock helped dozens of veterans come to grips with their previous atrocities, ultimately saving the lives of many great Horde soldiers. His own actions under the Blood Curse, however, continue to haunt him, as the sounds of swine being killed when they are ready for slaughter reminds him of the death screams of the Draenei children, and older veterans like Varrock are often troubled by the memory. It disturbed Varrock so deeply that he has refused to eat pork ever since. He will not shy away from war or hesitate to defend his people in the Horde. However, he refuses to start a war, and if it is within his power, he will prevent a warmongering spirit from doing so. Whether through actions or by words, he will stop them any way he can, no matter what. Saurfang was initially stationed in Orgrimmar's Valley of Strength, where he enforced the rule of War Chief Thrall. He was the one who announced the death of Nefarian when his head was turned in. During the Second War of the Shifting Sands, Saurfang traveled to the front lines in Selithis. He acted as the supreme commander of the Might of Kalimdor in the war against the Silithid and their Karaji masters. Where from this wiki page, we can go ahead and take a look at War Chief, where War Chief was a title used by the leader of the modern Horde. The title has also been used by leaders of the Horde's offshoots and previous incarnations, the Old Horde, the Horde of Draenor, the Fel Horde, the Dark Horde, and the Iron Horde, as well as the Film Universe's Horde. During the war with the Draenei before the opening of the Dark Portal, Gul'dan envisioned two groups of leaders for the Orcs when he united them into the Horde, the Shadow Council, who shared his vision, and the publicly elected War Chief to be its puppet. On Draenor, Ner'zhul took the title in the event Gul'dan should ever return. The War Chief became the title of the Horde's supreme leader, though their duties no longer included simply war. The position was ultimately retired following the Fourth War, after the tenure of Sylvanas Windrunner was riddled with controversy in the wake of war chiefs such as Garrosh Hellscream. Instead, the Horde is now led by the Horde Council, though it is unknown if the position will be restored should the Horde go to war again. Where we can look at a list of all of the war chiefs, where Blackhand the Destroyer, first war chief of the Horde, elected by the clan chieftains during the war against the Draenei on Draenor. Continued as war chief during the first war between Stormwind and the Horde, he was slain by Orgrim Doomhammer in ritual combat, who then took his place as war chief, and he is deceased. Orgrim Doomhammer, war chief of the Horde during the end of the first war, having slain Blackhand and taken his place and the entirety of the second war, died when liberating orcs from the Alliance internment camps, deceased, buried in Hammerfall, Arathi Highlands. Ner'zhul, war chief of the Horde of Draenor, rallied the clans and remained on Draenor after the Dark Portal was shut down at the end of the Second War. He created several portals to escape Draenor after the Alliance invaded, but was captured by Kil'jaeden, who transformed him into the Lich King. Thrall, war chief of the Horde, son of Durotan, liberator of the orcs and chieftain of the Frostwolf clan. As the greatest shaman ever known, he stepped down to join the Earthen Ring in stabilizing the world following the Cataclysm, and he is still alive. Garrosh Hellscream, war chief of the Horde, son of Grom Hellscream, invited by Thrall to join the Horde after the reopening of the Dark Portal by Lord Kazak, and quickly advancing to the position of personal advisor. He was chosen by Thrall to be the war chief when he stepped down to join the Earthen Ring, deposed by the Alliance and Darkspear Rebellion due to the warmongering and genocidal policy towards non-orcs. Vol'jin, war chief of the Horde, son of Sinjin, shadow hunter, and chieftain of the Darkspear tribe, became war chief following Garrosh's defeat at the Siege of Orgrimmar, the first non-orc to hold the position, died in the aftermath of the Battle for Broken Shore from his wounds. War chief of the Horde and Banshee Queen of the Forsaken, became war chief following Vol'jin's death during the Third Burning Legion invasion. She is the first female, undead, and elf to hold the position, ultimately abandoned the Horde to pursue her own agenda. We can also look at other organizations, primarily Orcish clans or offshoots of the Horde, which have war chiefs as well, where we have Rin Blackhand, war chief of the Dark Horde, minion of Nefarian, gathered together remnants of the Blackrock, Dragonmaw, and Blacktooth Green clans after the Horde's defeat in the Second War, resided in the Upper Blackrock Spire of Blackrock Mountain in Azeroth. Kargath Bladefist, war chief of the Fell Horde, minion of Illidan, resides in the Shattered Halls of Hellfire Citadel and Outland. Joran Deadeye, who refers to himself as war chief of the Bleeding Hollow clan in Nagrand, who is still alive. Morgor, described as war chief of the Dragonmaw clan in the Twilight Highlands, later defeated by Garrosh Hellscream's forces, formerly the leader of the Dragonmaw forces in Shadowmoon Valley as a servant of Illidan. Garrosh Hellscream, war chief of the True Horde after he expelled the non-Orcish races. Grommash Hellscream, war chief of the Iron Horde and later the Mag'har, an organization consisting of uncorrupted Orcish clans on an alternate version of Draenor after Garrosh interfered with the timeline. Durotan, war chief of the Frostwolf Orcs on alternate Draenor. Gul'dan, war chief of the Felm Horde, and Blackhand, the former war chief of the Felm Horde. The war chief of the Horde stands as the undisputed leader. The war chief holds dominion over the entire Horde. The war chief maintains the Horde, has the power to declare war for the entire Horde, take any precaution to ensure the stability and security of the Horde member states, and has the final say in the induction of new Horde members. All members of the Horde have to swear a blood oath to join the Horde, and are thus obligated to follow the war chief's commands, and support the war chief in times of war if the war chief calls upon them for aid. The position of war chief can be attained by having the previous war chief choose a successor or challenging the current war chief to Mak'ra, a pre-arranged duel with deadly weapons between two people following a formal procedure in the presence of witnesses and traditionally fought until one party yields or is killed, usually to settle a quarrel involving a point of honor. Above all else, the title war chief is granted to those who display strength and decisive action. War chiefs must be able to gain respect via combat effectiveness and martial conquests, but also have enough tact to keep the Horde united and stable. The war chief may accept ambassadors and advisors from all the different tribes and members of the Horde to make sure their voices are heard in the running of the fledgling hegemony, but ultimately, only the war chief has the final say in matters concerning the entire Horde. Being a war chief wasn't just about being a military leader, it was also among a war chief's duty to hear petitioners about more mundane matters and to settle disputes as a neutral third party. Where a Mak'ra, meaning duel of honor, is an Orcish custom whereby someone may challenge another person to individual combat. The ritualistic duel has been often used to obtain a position of leadership, such as a fight for the position of group leader, clan chieftain, or war chief of the Horde, but not necessarily. Mak'ra is practiced by ogre clans as well. Mak'ra used to be traditionally combat to the death, but under War Chief Thrall's rule it became a non-lethal combat, though participants can choose to forego this change. Refusing a Makra can mean dishonor. When used as a fight to the death, being spared can perceive as a grave insult for the orcs, at least for Thunderlords. In one unnamed Orcish clan, the participants were expelled from their clan and left for dead when they refused to kill each other during the Makra. In Ogre clans, only an Ogre may challenge another group to a Makra, but the challenger may then choose a champion to fight on his or her behalf. The rules of a Makra seem to be different between each Makra since they are chosen and set by the participants themselves. Generally, there are thus no specific rules. There are only two consistent themes in all Makra. Once dropped, a weapon cannot be retrieved by either opponent, and that the pair must fight to the death or until submission. Magic, for example, has never been stated to be forbidden, and has in fact been used in multiple Makra duels, and thus seems to be permitted. Similarly, many Makra duels have involved both fighters wearing body armor as well, but it can also be forbidden when explicitly required. For example, the traditional Old Way rules chosen for the Makra between Garrosh and Cairn, where the combat was to the death, one weapon was allowed. A blessing of this weapon by a shaman of their choosing was permitted. Both body armor and clothing were forbidden. Only a loincloth was allowed. Each participant had to have at least one witness. The rules chosen for the Makra between Shagara and Ashra were one weapon was allowed. Body armor was forbidden, but not clothing. The combat was to the death. In many instances of Makra, no rules whatsoever are defined beforehand. For instance, in both the first and the second Makra between Thrall and Garrosh, the Makra between Saurfang and Malfurion, or the Makra between Saurfang and Sylvanas. The Thunderlord clan was a proud Orcish clan that dwelled in eastern Frostfire Ridge. The clan was one of many that were left behind on Draenor during the First and Second Wars, but the Thunderlords later rallied under Ner'zhul's new banner. In the current day, the clan is said to have transformed into Fel Orcs. Despite this, no Thunderlord Fel Orcs are ever actually encountered. The clan had strong ties to both the Blackrock and Lightning's Blade clans, and was known for its skilled hunters. 13 Thunderlord warriors remained behind with Grommash Hellscream to defend the Dark Portal, among them Malgrim Stormhand. It is unknown what became of these warriors, but at least one must have survived in some capacity to allow Eric the Aloof to have been present in Azeroth. Roughly 800 years before the First War, some of the orcs who migrated out of Gorgron settled in the bleak and icy region of Frostfire Ridge, among them the Thunderlords. The clan draws its name from an ancient chieftain who single-handedly slew a powerful Gron at the pinnacle of Thunder Peak. The orcs were once enslaved by the ogres of Frostfire. In the time of the Thunderlord's formation, just as the orcs began winning their freedom from the orcs, the ancient shaman were said to be granted their powers from powerful shaman stones. These stones granted the orcs with the blessings of frost and fire, which aided the Thunderlords in their liberation. During this time, an orc by the name of Breakcore wielded the legendary Groundsblade, a spear blessed by the shaman stones of frost and fire and dipped in the blood of one of the ancient black Rylaks of the Stonefury Cliffs. The tale indicates that the weapon grew in power after that point, but that its power faded after leaving Breakcore's hands. Rylak are a type of two-headed flying predators and scavengers native to Draenor. In the main universe, they appear to have transformed into mutated chimeras. In the alternate universe, they are still common on the alternate Draenor and are frequently captured and ridden by the Thunderlord orcs and other members of the Iron Horde. We're just going quickly through 5 different articles on the wiki. We went from Varrock Saurfang to Warchief to Makra to Thunderlord clan to Rylak. So we went from Varrock Saurfang all the way to Rylak, which is kind of fun. Where I have been exploring the Hillsbrad foothills and I have been completing a bunch of different quests around here, and I want to go ahead and take a moment to do a little bit of an in-depth look at a couple of areas around here in the foothills. Where first things first is Dungrok, which basically I'm going to kind of do a quest chain available in this map backwards, where at the end of the Battle of Hillsbrad quest chain you come here to Dungrok, where I have one quest already but I don't have the second one, and you basically come through this dwarven fortress and you fight a bunch of dwarves. And I just want to share like a very quick story about like a little bit of nostalgia I have with this place, because I started playing World of Warcraft in like 2007, 2008, and I was exploring the world and all of that. And then I went to a friend's house and I played Warcraft 2 and Warcraft 3 for the first time. And I remember when playing through the Warcraft 2 campaign that there is a mission related to Dungrok, and I don't remember anything about like the mission itself. It might have had some stuff with like naval warfare or whatever, but I just remember the location of Dungrok in like the Hillsbrad foothills in Warcraft 2, and like that entire mission. And then I remember like being like, oh, this is a place in World of Warcraft that you could like come to and do things. So I kind of had that like backwards experience where like I played World of Warcraft first and I went back to Warcraft 2 and I was experiencing all of that stuff for like the first time. And I was kind of like looking back on my experience playing World of Warcraft, where a lot of people who played Warcraft 2 would like come here to Dungrok and be like, oh, I remember this place from Warcraft 2, and have like that same type of experience but kind of flipped over a little bit. I have that same kind of experience with Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 1 as well, because I started playing Guild Wars 2 in 2012, and then I first played the original Guild Wars in 2014. So I had explored like all these different places in like Ascalon and whatnot, and then I went to Guild Wars 1 and I'm like, oh, this is what it was like 250 years ago, and I had like that experience. Or like a lot of Guild Wars 1 players going into Guild Wars 2 would be like, oh, this is what this place is like now 250 years later. So kind of like the same experience, but also like flipped in reverse. But I want to go ahead and try to avoid the South Shore guards over here, and I want to head over to a second area where I guess along the way we can go ahead and check this traveling merchant right here, the Merchant Supreme. And actually there's some leather working gloves there that we can get, or shoulders rather, which I'm not sure if these are better than what we currently have. 7 stamina, 67 versus 5 stamina, 4 spirit, and 65 armor. So I think what we currently have is a little bit better, but it's cool that we have that recipe now. But I was wanting to come over here to the Hillsbrad Fields, where we can also look at a mine just south of here in a moment. But the Hillsbrad Fields is a really interesting part of this zone, because in the vanilla version of World of Warcraft, the Horde and Alliance are like kind of at war at each other, but they're not like fully at war. But we get to basically experience like the conflicts that these two factions have against each other in a couple of different ways, or a few different ways throughout the world of Azeroth. And one of them is here in the Hillsbrad Fields, where I don't think I have every quest that we can do here right now, and I'm probably going to like come back into here and do some other things. But I just want to take like a quick moment to just run around this area, and we can fight some humans that basically I want to go into kind of a discussion about like ethics and morals in the Warcraft universe, because we're just killing a bunch of farmers right now. But I want to go ahead and first just kind of look around here, and it's kind of like, oh, I'm out of inventory space. It's kind of like just a cool area, because it's like an Alliance stronghold that the Horde are like attacking, and by stronghold it's like a town basically. And then in the Cataclysm expansion we see this place get overhauled a lot where it's basically kind of like completely taken over by the undead and whatnot. But we just have a variety of quests to come around here, and we can fight a bunch of different humans, where this one is a little low level, so we won't be getting a lot of experience. And this is kind of one of those interesting places, because these Hillsbrad farmers are actually friendly towards Alliance players. There's no quests for Alliance to do around here, but like Alliance people can come here and they won't be attacked by the farmers. And something that we saw a lot in like the classic version of the game, and then in Season of Discovery it became like a big issue on PvP servers, as Alliance kind of just hiding here, because they can then outnumber like Horde players and just like basically kill like questing Horde players that are like at 20% health, and just like get easy kills without having to worry about getting attacked by the mobs themselves. So it's kind of just like an interesting area in general. We can go ahead and come inside this barn. What's in here? We got a farmhand and a farmer, so I guess we can go ahead and just wipe them out. Looks like they don't do a really good job about keeping their animals alive, which is kind of interesting. Oh, and there's a chest in here. Let's see if there's anything of value in this Alliance chest. It's specifically an Alliance chest, and I can delete some stuff. So let's go ahead and get rid of that, and then get the Dwarven Mild, and then I'll probably just clean through this entire place, where I guess I'll delete the Shadow Gem. Then we can get the healing potions, and then let's delete this clam meat and get this waylaid supplies, which I think was probably not worth it actually. And I could have just used, oh, I guess I don't have clam meat. I need to clean up my inventory a little bit. But let's go ahead and continue questing around the Hillsbrad foothills and getting towards level 31. But as we continue our questing here, I want to go ahead and just talk a little bit about what I said I want to talk about when it comes to like morals and ethics when playing World of Warcraft, which is kind of a weird topic that I don't think many people really talk about, but it is an issue that I see arise every now and then when with like different people talking about the game on like different like subreddits and like other places like in YouTube comments. And it is something that like I kind of think about a little bit when I am playing this game, because a lot of these quests in World of Warcraft, in vanilla World of Warcraft and the Burning Crusade of Wrath Lich King, throughout every single one of World of Warcraft's expansions, are kind of messed up when you like kind of like dive deep into the story going on here, where like you are playing in the world and you are role playing and you come across these quests that like have you do really like bad things. And a lot of people don't like doing these quests because they want to pretend to like be a character that's like a good person that doesn't do like evil things or like commit like evil genocidal atrocities or whatever. Where when it comes to like World of Warcraft and kind of MMOs in general, when it comes to like role playing as your character, it is really kind of an individualistic, like what you kind of just want to engage with in the game, where it doesn't really have that much of an impact on like your experience playing the game, because for the most part you just pick up a quest, do a bunch of things, turn in the quest, you get experience and you move on. And it isn't until you get into like other games, mostly single player based games, kind of games like Baldur's Gate 3, where your decisions really matter, where if you decide to be a genocidal maniac, that is going to have an impact on you and your experience, where if you decide to be the opposite of a genocidal maniac, it's also going to have an impact on you and like your experience playing the game. But when it comes to World of Warcraft, a lot of these quests in Hellsprout Foothills are really messed up, where basically there's one quest where we have to kill a bunch of humans all around Hellsprout Foothills, and we have to take their skulls. We have to get 30 of them. And when you think about that, that's kind of messed up. We're just hunting down a bunch of humans and we're like ripping like their skin and like their flesh and their eyeballs and whatnot off of their body, and we're just like cutting their skulls off their body, and we're bringing 30 of them back to turn in for some experience. That's kind of messed up. There is another quest where you have to poison and kill a dog, a farmer's dog here in Hillsbrad, and I didn't do that quest because I really didn't feel like doing that. That's kind of like one of the quests that like I just don't do no matter what, because like I can kind of get behind the other one, but I just can't get myself behind this one. Another one is a quest where you have to like basically like contaminate Tilder soap, like basically, which I talked a little bit about when we were doing our Night Elf Druid hardcore Let's Play series, where I skipped over that quest and I kind of talked about that a little bit. But then when we look at the quests in general around Hillsbrad related to the Battle of Hillsbrad, we have a bunch of human farmers who basically lost their entire kingdom in the Third War when the Scourge destroyed Lordaeron, and they're all just trying to live here in Hillsbrad, the town of Hillsbrad Fields and whatnot, and they're just trying to live their lives, and they're just farmers, and you know they have mines, and they have like lumber mills probably somewhere, and they're just trying to be a community of humans that live in the place that they have lived for hundreds of years, where their family has lived for hundreds of years, and where like their entire history is, and where they personally call home. And we are coming in here and we are exterminating them. We are wiping them out. We are killing all of them. We are killing civilians, citizens, farmers, miners, guards. We're just killing everyone. And a lot of people find that really messed up. And it's kind of just like a really interesting thing to think about when it comes to World of Warcraft. Because when we look at Hillsbrad Foothills, this is just like 3 examples that I just listed here, plus one more in Teldrassil, I guess, which is like to a lesser extent, but it's like very personal to me, of quests that are just messed up, and people don't really enjoy doing them, except a lot of people still do them because people are like zug get experience, and they just like continue through the world. Where when we look at the entirety of World of Warcraft, there are quite a few messed up quests, where we've like kind of like looked at a few of them, and you could like look at any quest as kind of being messed up. Like when we look at like the Defias in Elwyn Forest and in Westfall and elsewhere, we're just killing people that are poor people that have been manipulated and abused by the Kingdom of Stormwind, and they're trying to take like action into their own hands, and we're just killing them, which like that gets into like a whole like idea about like what's right and wrong and like what's right action to take. But like at the end of the day, we're killing poor farmers. That's what's going on with the Defias quest line. So overall, this is just something like really interesting to think about when it comes to like the design of World of Warcraft, because World of Warcraft developers have never really shied away from making quests where you're an absolutely horrible human being doing like these actions compared to like other games where like, you know, you're less of a horrible person. And overall, that's just kind of like an interesting topic that I want to dive a little bit into. And it kind of impacts like my experience playing the game, because like there's things that like I don't enjoy doing. And as I like sit and think about it more, and like I don't turn my brain off and just quest and like really think about what I'm doing, I feel bad, I guess, which is kind of like not something you should really get from playing a video game, and it's kind of dumb that that happens, but it's still like just an interesting like experience that I have and that many other people have. Where I have now reached level 31, and as I reached level 30, I unlocked a few cool things. Where the first thing is Astral Recall, which yanks the caster through the Twisting Nether back to the Crossroads, which is where my Hearthstone is set. Speak to an innkeeper in a different place to change your home location, which this is basically a second Hearthstone that I can use whenever my Hearthstone is on cooldown, which is a 1 hour cooldown. So I basically can use 2 Hearthstones, but this Astral Recall has a 15-minute cooldown, so I can basically Hearthstone like 5 times in a single 1 hour period instead of like the 1 time in 1 hour that I used to with just a regular Hearthstone. So this is such a like a super nice quality of life shaman skill that only shamans get, which is pretty cool. But mages get like portals, which is like unlimited portals and stuff, so they have that going for them. But shamans, we get this, which is very cool. But the second thing that I got is actually in my restoration tree here, and is a passive skill called Reincarnation, which allows you to resurrect yourself upon death with 20% health and mana, and it requires an Ankh. So basically whenever we die to like this hyena or whatever, which I guess I'll check over here for a quest drop since I'm right here, we can basically just get a pop-up that will pop up on our screen that we can click yes or return to Spirit Healer, where we can basically just resurrect ourselves wherever we are in the world, so we don't have to run back. But you do have to be aware that you respawn with 20% health and mana, and you respawn where you are in the world, so you just have to be a little bit careful about like everything around you when you use that skill. And it also uses an Ankh, which I bought some Ankhs here. I also bought a fishing pole just to like put in my inventory, even though I haven't learned fishing yet. But these are like 18 silver each or 20 silver each from vendors, but then you get like reputation discounts. So like my Orgrimmar reputation brings it down to 18 silver, I believe, which is very cool, and is a little bit expensive even with like the discount, but it's still probably worth it to be able to resurrect when you need to in like different places around the road. But with level 30, we also unlocked our final totem quest line, and by quest line it is just a single quest for this totem, which is very interesting because we have all these other totems that we have done where you have to do multiple quests, especially the water totem that takes many quests for you to complete. But we have the air totem here, where we picked up Call of Air in Orgrimmar, and we could have done it on Thunderbluff as well, as I believe, and it brings us here and we get our air totem, and that's everything. And we just got Swift Wind, which increases movement speed by 40% and increases attack speed by 30%. So I really don't want to waste this buff because we have this buff right here, but we have Air Totem now, where if we look over here, I have Grounding Totem, which summons a grounding totem with 5 health at the feet of the caster that will redirect 1 harmful spell cast on a nearby party member to itself every 10 seconds, which is really cool. And then we have Nature Resistance Totem, summons a Nature Resistance Totem with 5 health at the feet of the caster for 2 minutes, then increases the nature resistance of party members within 20 yards by 30, which is also really cool. And we'll unlock more air totems, where the most popular one is like Wind Fury Totem, I believe, which increases like the attack speed of all melee party members, kind of similar to our Wind Fury weapon that we just picked up here, which I'm not sure which weapon is better, if we have Wind Fury or Rockbiter or Flame Tongue. I've been using Flame Tongue, but I think Wind Fury is better, but I'll look into that. But we have unlocked all of these things, and I have now reached the level 31, which means we are beginning to unlock a few different areas around the world that we can begin going to and to do questing in. So these last 2 episodes, I basically like got 3 levels in each episode, and I got a lot of progress done. We're going into these next few episodes, we are going to slow down just a little bit, and we won't be getting as many levels in each episode because I really want to start diving deep into some of these new locations compared to like the same old. we have been doing in the last couple of episodes. So I hope you all enjoy what is coming up next in this Let's Play series. And as far as this episode goes, I'm going to go ahead and call it good here, where I hope you all enjoyed watching all my adventures throughout the lands of Kalimdor and the Eastern Kingdoms, specifically Hillsbrad Foothills, and I hope you all are taking good care of yourselves. Remember, as always, to drink some water, check your posture, and subscribe. Oh, I also have a hood now. And I'll see you next time in the world of Azeroth. Goodbye.